Alright guys, so this is Mike again from Sky Team Overland. Me and Jess are here to do a quick walk around. We've been talking about putting this video out for quite some time and we've been slacking, so we're going to do it real quick. So we have our 2004 Jeep Liberty sitting on about a 6 to 7 inch lift on Coil Louvers. So we'll run through that. Everybody's main question is the suspension. And we'll talk about the bumpers and the tent and everything else as well. Alright, so let's get to it. Alright guys, so we'll start at the front of the Jeep. What we have here is the Wham Bumper from Wham_bumpers on Instagram. You can check them out. Natalie Barnett is the main person that I talked to when I was scheduling and getting this all prepped and prepared and planned out. This is somewhat customized from their overall one that's on their website. Their normal one sits a little bit lower, and I didn't want that. I wanted it to be kind of tucked up high and keep my ground clearance the best that I could. As you know, Liberties aren't known for ground clearance, really good approach angle and stuff like that. So I wanted to keep as much as I could. So we got it tucked up. We raised up the sides a lot, but I've been really happy with it. It's a pretty stout bumper. I used to have the Rock Lizard like 3-piece convertible winch bumper, and it was just terrible. Like the thought process behind it was really good. Being 3 pieces, you can put wings on it and just run a full bumper if you want, or you can, if you felt like running the stubby, you can run just the center and run the stubby. You could put the hoop on, you can take the hoop off. The idea was cool, but it was not very sturdy. The corners would bend. I'd come off of a rock and just drop on the corner and flex the whole thing. It was not good. This one is all one piece. It is amazingly strong. It's incredible. I have no issues with it. Me and my buddy Terry put this on. It is pretty heavy, but it is top notch. Probably my favorite addition besides the tent to this whole Jeep. We're running the M8000 winch from Warn with their Epic Series hook and hawse fairly, and also a 100-foot, I believe, Spydura synthetic rope. We used to run the steel cable. As you guys know, the steel cable is pretty heavy, so I wanted to have some weight savings. And for as often as I use my winch, which isn't as often as I thought that I would, as often as I use it though, I think the synthetic rope works for me, and saving that weight for as often as I do, it just makes the most sense to me to not have to carry the extra weight of the steel cable on there. Now that situation can be different for everybody, being if you are in a situation where you need the steel cable to run across something abrasive. Obviously a synthetic rope would not be good for that. If you're running it over a slope or around a tree because you don't have a tree saver or anything like that, you're going to damage the rope and you're going to snap your line. Steel cable wouldn't do that. So it has its places. Just got to know what's best for you and the type of environment that you see yourself in the most. So we're running the PIAA or PIAA lights in here. I got ambers and whites on both sides. They are extremely bright. I love them. They're awesome. This bumper also comes with the high lift cutouts, and it also makes it pretty handy to access bolts and wiring and stuff in here too. We've also got some tabs. I used to have a little short, like 18-inch light bar right here, but it was just a cheap one off of Amazon, and it got waterlogged, so I just took it off. But I kind of like having it off. It frees up some airflow to the radiator, and with how heavy this thing is, I don't mind the extra airflow and keeping it cool. This is the Arb Safari Snorkel. A lot of people ask me if it's a real snorkel or if I can go that deep into water and all this stuff, and I think there's a huge misconception of what snorkels are for. So just real quick, without going too in depth in any detail or starting a YouTube fight or whatever, my purpose of a snorkel is to get my intake air cleaner. And so by moving my intake point all the way up here, it gets cleaner air to my throttle body, passing through the filter and all that. And you've got it down in the stock location. It's totally fine. It's not terrible, but the air is not as clean when you're going down a lot of dusty roads like I do. You spend a lot of time out in the middle of nowhere, especially in dry climates. You're going to have a lot of dust. All that dust is going to go somewhere, and if your vehicle is breathing it in and working as it should, you're going to breathe in the dust, and your filter can only do so much. So having this up there, really, by the time the dust gets up there, it's far more broken apart than it would be down below, and that's my primary purpose. Yes, also it's good for, you know, water crossings and stuff like that, but that's not my purpose for having this on here. This bumper that I have here is a swing out bumper that was built by a good friend of mine who no longer builds them, unfortunately. I really wish that he built some more, or that he was even still making them. Unfortunately, he's out of the Liberty game for a couple of years now. But it's an amazing bumper. It's one long swing arm with a 1,000 pound spindle on it, and it definitely holds up to the weight. I'm running my spare tire mount on here, a dual jerry can mount, the high lift in the back, and I got the Maxtrax mounted to the ARB's Maxtrax mount for your spare tire. Let's see, move down below here. My buddy Ricky, when he made the bumper, was able to put an integrated hitch in there for me. So I don't have the bumper and then also a hitch, because if you guys are aware, when you're putting on skid plates and bumpers and things like that back here, they all share the same bolt holes. So if you can imagine having a skid plate, the bumper, and a hitch to mount all in the same holes, it can be pretty tricky to do. So luckily I only have the skid and the bumper, and that's already pretty tricky enough. That being said, moving down, I do have the Kilby gas tank skid plate, which is like the last one that was ever made. I somehow managed to get it like 8 years ago, and I've been smashing it off all kinds of things ever since, and it's held up perfectly fine without any issues. Alright guys, so we're going to show you the swing out real fast. So that's pretty much it, just the one latch. There's a big hook on here, and we'll just pull this out. Normally there's a latch to hold this open, but I broke mine doing something terrible in my driveway, being stupid. So right now I'm temporarily opening and closing it, not opening it. I'm holding it open with this Allen wrench. So here we have our high lift jack mounted, just 2 bolts on here. I also keep this zip tied to keep this from rattling. If you guys have any of these mounted on the outside, this handle likes to rattle. The foot also likes to rattle, but what can you do, you know? People put some socks on them. They make special high lift like covers and stuff like that. I'm not that inclined. I also keep this in the up position so it could slide forward. But I have a wing nut style bolt in here to allow it to not slide all the way down, so it stays exactly how it is and it never moves. Never have a problem with it. We have our Maxtrax mounted with the ARB Maxtrax spare tire mount. It's pretty simple. It just wraps around your spare tire, has a little hook that hangs over it, and you just hook them right on there. This is the Front Runner dual jerry can holder. This is roughly 10.6 gallons between the 2 cans. So roughly a third to 2/3 of a tank. I think the KJ has an 18.5 gallon tank, so 10.6, somewhere around 2/3. It's plenty enough for me. I use them quite often. If we're going to West Texas and my dumb ass forgets to get gas, I've had to stop on the side of the road a couple times and fill up using them. So right here, when I had the bumper made for my buddy Ricky, I asked him specifically to put this in here. This is a flagpole mount. A lot of people do like a hitch mounted flagpole mount, but I have a big piece of conduit with some D-rings or carabiners attached to them, and we run a flag on there. What I have learned about running the flags is that at highway speeds they get torn up really, really fast. So typically I only do it if I'm going to be going at slow speeds or on a slower trip, like the beach or something like that. I don't like to ride it around town for the purpose of it not getting destroyed.
You can also easily fit a
umbrella. Our buddy Terry at Texas Black Cat on Instagram, he lives here in San Antonio with us, and we hang out quite often. Every time we go somewhere, he busts out this little black and red umbrella that matches his Jeep. I finally asked him where he got it. Apparently it was at Home Depot. So I went and found it. It was like $25. It's a poor man's awning, you know? So let me see if I can get this opened up.
Voila!
Pretty awesome. Not only that, but it works really great if you angle this just right. When you open the back glass, you get a little bit more. So you kind of have multi-coverage. And with the swing out swinging the same way as the door does, you have the ability to open this all the way up, and you can cook out of the back, you can do whatever back here, and you're somewhat covered without having to get one of those expensive awnings. $25, obviously expensive bumper, it's probably cheaper to get an awning off the back, but if you already have the bumper, build a little flagpole mount on it, you can mount one of these in there. Alright guys, so we're here at the side of the Jeep. What we have here are some more of the same guy who built my bumper, built me some rock sliders. These are full length. The only few people I've seen making some of these are like Rocky Road, and back in the day the Rock Lizard Fabrications was making theirs. Neither of those was full length, so I wanted these to be all the way, like one side to the other. And I also had him beef it up and put some thicker tubing and some reinforcements underneath. So I've been using these now probably like 5 years at least, and smash them off all kinds of stuff. We put some non-skid tape on there that's really dangerous to the backside of your calf if you forget that it's there on the way out, but it works really good to not slip and everything when you're getting in. So moving on to the tires, we have the 285/75/16 Toyo Open Country AT2s. These are a load range E tire. You just have a bug just fly right in my mouth. These are a load range E tire. I don't think most Liberty owners will need something this thick of a ply and this load range. I think you'd be fine with a C or a D. I ran 245/75/16 load range C Duratrax for a real long time before I had all the extra weight, and they did really well. Once you start adding a bunch of stuff, you know, really weighing it down, hauling a lot of gear, you're gonna need the extra load range to kind of keep your tires wearing correctly, I should say. But I had the Toyo Open Country MTs before this in a 255/85/16, which was about a 33.5, a tall skinny or a pizza cutter. I like those, but I really like these a lot better. We don't have a whole lot of miles on them yet, maybe 10-15,000 if that, but so far they've been great. Alright guys, so I'm going to see if we can get you in a little bit closer here. So we have back here 12-inch travel Fox shocks with the remote reservoir built into them. Pretty simple installation. What you'll notice the most is there is not a bushing style in here like your stock suspension comes with. It's just a bolt passing through the top eyelet. So that does create a lot more noise. So if you have a daily driver, I'd recommend probably not doing that unless you have a lot of patience. Alright, so here we have the remote reservoir for the Fox shocks mounted to the body with some self-tapping screws and using the little exhaust clamps style hangers that they give you. I didn't want to get anything fancy or try to mock up a whole ordeal, so I just used what I had with what I could and with a few things I had laying around my house to get them mounted. Now you'll notice here in my spring perch that there's some bolts passing through here. The reason for that is because I actually pushed this upper perch back. If you look at your Liberty and you haven't done it to yours, you'll notice that this upper cup actually sits closer to up here. The reason mine is pushed back is because my axle is slightly pushed back as well. Moving down into here, you'll see we have some limit straps right here. This one definitely touched my exhaust and got a little bit burnt, but it's been holding up totally fine. We're running TJ short arms here in the rear with some Barnes 4-wheel drive enduro joints on both ends. Very heavy duty. We are running the Ironman 4x4 Fab upper control arm that's connected to a Clayton truss, and I'll swing the camera around and show you guys that here in a second. We're also running the ARB Old Man Emu 2865 spring. Alright, so one of the things you may have noticed is that my diff cover says aux on it. I am running an aux rear locker run off of my ARB air compressor that's up front mounted in the engine bay. I also run my front ARB air locker in the front diff off of that same air compressor, and I also use it to air my tires, so it's kind of multi-purpose. Alright guys, so moving on to the front here. We were also running the Fox up front as well, just like the rear corner. So this is a Fox 6.5 inch travel coilover, and if you look up here, you can see our adjustability. We're about 2.5 inches down from the top. We're running a 14 inch 600-pound spring from Eibach with this coilover. TerraFlex extended bump stops. These are JBA arms painted black. Standard, like stock style. I know it's not technically stock, but it's what everybody's using on theirs is the K6292 Moog ball joint. We have the JBA knuckle adapter, because I do have a 2-inch cradle drop that I made myself. I have extended brake lines that we had made up. Stock CV axles down here. Stock inner and outer tie rod end. Stock sway bar, stock end links. Let's see. That's pretty much it. As far as the way that this is mounted here, it's definitely a lot better than the JBA version because it's a lot more customizable and user-friendly. Marlins come with the Clevis permanently attached to it with red Loctite on the thread, so every time that you want to take it apart and change springs, you have to heat it up, remove the Loctite, spin the Clevis off, swap your springs out. The way that we have this one set up, this top plate up here was made by Morgan at the helm. If you guys don't know him, he makes a lot of Jeep Liberty KK stuff. I'm not sure that he's doing those anymore, but he was for a while. So we have this top plate with a regular shock tab bolted in place of the normal top plate, so I can remove this coilover without having to go through from the engine bay like you normally would on the stock suspension. Down here we have a coil spring perch that has a slot cut through it, so it can be slid in from the side and go past the shaft. So I can essentially take my lock rings up here, move them all the way top, free up my spring, and then I can slide this out and we can drop the coil out from underneath. Now a lot of you guys are probably wondering what's mounting the coilover to the Clevis, since it's not like Marlins, and we had a special adapter made out of billet aluminum. You can't really see it, but it's in here. And it sits inside the stock Clevis just like the original shock would, or the coilover would. And it threads on to the shaft of the coilover, and it's small enough that the coils can pass over top of it as well. So one of the things you'll notice is that the differential in here is red. I'm running the JBA Steel Dana 30. This allows me to run 456 gears. In the stock diff you can normally only run 410s since it's aluminum. So I do have the ability to run the 456 gears, so I'm currently running the G2 gears in the rear and Yukons in the front. We are running the 4x-guard skids from JBA. So this is a front skid, and up here is the transmission skid. And then you can't see it, but we also have the Mopar transfer case skid back there. What you'll notice is that this hangs down a little bit lower. I can give you a view from the side so you can see that. This does hang down a little bit lower because I do have a 2-inch cradle drop. So that's why it looks as low as it is, but luckily with the lift we make up for that difference once we lift it again. Alright, so another thing that we have here is Run Cool hood louvers. I went and put these on here myself. I didn't have a shop install them. It's like 100 some holes, 2 really big holes, but it makes a huge difference. You can literally see the heat coming out. I don't have any issues except for in a very, very, very large downpour, if the Jeep sits in the same spot like a parking lot and it was like crazy rain weather. And every now and then I'll have one of my coil packs will have some water in it and it could cause a misfire. But I usually just get my air compressor, I blow the air out, and it's not a big deal. Alright everybody, so moving up top we have the Front Runner 40-inch light bar. If you look, you can kind of see the pattern change. It's got spot and flood on it. Just solid white. I think it's like 18 or 20,000 lumens or something like that. It's crazy bright. It's pretty awesome. Coupled that with our yellow and our whites on the bumper, and you can pretty much see everything. Obviously the next big thing that's on top of that, literally, is the tent. This is what I believe is the second in all of North America from Quick Pitch. The first being Ross Aguirre's, I think I just called him Aguirre. Ross Aguirre from TGM Overland. He, I believe, had the very first one from Quick Pitch, and I think I may have gotten the second one. Him and I met up in Dallas, and we put this on in a loading dock area. Wasn't too bad to install, but at least I love the tent. I'm gonna ask Jess what she thinks. Maybe she'll give her honest opinion.
I like the tent. It's really easy to set up. It takes like no effort, and it's really easy to compact again and put away. The only issue I have is the fact that I'm short, like reaching it, but besides that, it's still pretty simple. I can do it myself if I needed to. I like the fact that it's a hardcover rooftop tent, mainly because of the story of his friend who has a soft covered tent. A bunch of ants got in there. It was parked under a tree for quite some time, and so they had a bunch of carpenter ants fill their tent. So I feel like this one they wouldn't have a chance to get in because it's really secured shut. That's my opinion of the tent.
All right, so Quick Pitch designed, along with Alucab, I believe that they're a partner together or subsidiary type of company, but they have this fancy hinge here that doesn't allow water to get into it. If you see, it's not like your typical hinge where there's a crease. So there's no crease on here, so when you're driving in heavy rain, there's no chance for water to get in there. When I pressure wash, there's no chance for water to get in there. It's been awesome. All right, so I'll move you guys up and let you take a look at this. Not only is it a rooftop tent, but also it has T-tracks along the entire length of the tent. What this allows you to do is mount stuff to the roof. I believe we can open this with 100 pounds on the roof and it still opens fine using the gas struts on the inside. Not only that, but there's also T-tracks along the side here, and they run all the way down as well. So you can attach awnings and anything else that you want to do, a road shower, Maxtrax, whatever you'd like really can be mounted to this tent as well. So it's more of a rooftop tent as well as a roof rack built into one. What you'll see here is a plug-in connector. Currently we don't have this even wired up to anything, but we have the option to, and inside there's two USB ports and a lamp as well, an LED lamp, so we can see inside. Alright, so this side also has the T-track, and you can see some of that gasket material along here. One of the things that I really like about this tent versus other hard shells is that most hard shells have the gas strut that runs on the outside and it actually holds it up from the outside. What I don't like about that is its ability to get caught on trees in tight spaces or tight trails, whereas these struts are actually on the inside of it, so that's not a problem to worry about. This right here is our ladder mount. It just hooks in right here. It's a telescoping ladder. Just run it down to the ground and crawl up in there. Alright, so one of the reasons that my Jeep is so heavy is because I carry everything. Literally everything. Right now there's a few things that are actually missing because we just came back from a road trip, which you guys will be seeing that hopefully soon. So there are some things in here that, or some things that are not in here that are normally in here. But essentially what I have is 4 different drawers. I have no back seat, so this box is huge. The no back seat, there's a platform in front where my fridge normally goes. I have the CFX 65DZ from Dometic that normally sits right in front of this ladder behind the passenger seat. And then on the other side is actually just a normal spot missing a seat with a platform built for our dog. So, you know, she sits a little bit lower and she feels safer, even though she still acts crazy. But real fast, let's talk about these drawers. So my bottom right hand drawer is my tool drawer. This green basket actually has every single tool that I need to work on my suspension and most common everyday stuff. So I literally took a toolkit that I got from Harbor Freight. I made sure it had everything I needed, and everything I didn't have, which is a few wrenches and sockets of like weird sizes like 13/16 and 7/8, 15/16, 1 inch, 1 1/16, stuff like that, are in this green basket, all the extra stuff. I just walked around putting wrenches on everything. And I was like, okay, I have everything I need. It's all in here. So between this basket and the toolbox, I have everything. All right, this drawer is currently empty. This is normally full of camp gear. As you can see, I don't know if you can see how deep this is. It's pretty deep, goes pretty far back. Normally this is our camping drawer. It has our stove and utensils, paper plates, essentially everything that you would use to cook food is our kitchen drawer, our galley drawer. You know, it's got the extra propane tanks and lighters and things like that. This drawer over here is our recovery drawer. So we have the, off-road, an ARB off-road base for the high lift. The I don't even know what brand this is. It's Smitty built, apparently. Toe strap. I busted my old toe strap doing stupid stuff. And then, our air hoses, our winch controller, impact gloves, safety gloves, extra nuts and bolts, jumper cables, random stuff, but all recovery related. Alright, this drawer is my favorite drawer because I'm OCD and I like to have things organized. So this is my chemicals / spare parts drawer. So I keep an extra belt. This is a water pump, and inside the box with the water pump is even more stuff like U-joints and things like that that could break, that could leave you stranded. Lots of brake cleaner. Extra grease. If you saw my other drawer, I had a grease gun in it. Bungee cords, some spray silicone, bug repellent, which I wish I would have used right now because the bugs are chewing my legs. Brake fluid, lots of suntan lotion, suntan spray, sunblocker, Xerox G05 for the radiator. I need to talk about the radiator. I didn't do that on my last one. We'll talk about the radiator. It's an aftermarket radiator. Anti-seize, funnel, yeah, typical stuff like that. So the maintenance drawer, I'd say I call this. Normally on this side I have my larger toolbox. It is currently not here because it's in our cross track. On this side there's normally the shovel, which I actually still here. Keep this short shovel right here. It used to be on my front runner rack. Now it sits in here, obviously, since my front runner rack is not on. And then I keep one of my front runner chairs here, and I usually put another front runner chair on top. And since this is all carpeted, I don't have any issues with anything sliding around. So usually when we pack this for a trip, all of our bags will go up top. Since I don't look out my back window anyway, because I have all this other stuff in the way, I pack this all full of bags. I put towels and jackets and stuff over here, whatever else I can fit over there. Fridge goes in front of the box, and then dog and or if dog's not with us, other stuff. That way it's not overly packed all the way to the roof. You don't have to pull out 14 things to get to one thing. It's, one or two things need to get moved out and then you're good. So let's go to the tent. Alright, so here's a quick rundown of the quick pitch opening up. As if we're in camp, this is literally what I would do. I would open the swing gate and I would step on my little hitch here, undo this clamp, and then push it up. That's it. All of our bedding stays inside of it all the time. So right now there's pillows, a really thick blanket in there as well. I'm gonna go ahead and open the strap up and open the door so you can get the camera open. So I'll show you what this bungee cord is here in a second. Here's the rain fly. There's two tent poles inside. This sits out like this and has some mounting locations right here. But I'm gonna open this, hopefully. So here's the inside of the tent. There's pockets all along the roof. I usually put one of my Crocs in one pocket and one Croc in another pocket. Throw my keys in there and something else, and that's pretty much all that I use these pockets for. But they could definitely be useful for other things. We have two pillows and our bedding in here. If I move this out of the way, you can see we got our blanket underneath. These are the weather flaps for the door here, and then the door over here as well. So you have essentially 3 doors, 3 windows, depending on how you look at it, with the passenger side having the ladder on it, that's really more of a door than the other two are.
So, like he mentioned, these are the struts that are on the inside that are normally on the outside of other ones. So since they're on the inside, they won't get snagged on any trees or damaged from anything on the outdoors.
Yeah. The most minimal approach that we can to having things on the outside, the better, because, you know, we don't want to have a bunch of stuff hanging off the side to get snagged on trees or pulled off, or, you know, worst case scenario, you have something mounted on the outside. Now you can't get in your tent because the strut is broken and you're just gonna have to sleep inside. What's the point of that? If you have this super expensive rooftop tent, you might as well be able to sleep in it. All right, so for closing the tent, it's pretty straightforward. If you have the rain fly set up, you just pull the poles out, you toss them in here. I like to fold these in a little bit. And then there's this little bungee cord that you saw me take off earlier. And what this does is you kind of just throw it about halfway up on both sides, get that rain fly in there. And that helps it pull all the material inward as you lower the roof or the top of the tent. I'll demonstrate that real quick. Easiest way to do it to save your strength is just back off down the Jeep. And once it's most of the way closed, I usually just hop back up in there. I'll tuck my strap in, get one hand in there, one hand in there, and my tent is done. Money well spent. 3-inch thick foam mattress on the inside. Like I mentioned earlier, it's got lights, it's got USB charging ports. It's like 7 feet long. It's like 7 foot 2 inches long. So, I mean, it's more than enough room. So what we have our rooftop tent mounted to are front runner load bars. These are 1,470 millimeter wide, which is literally almost the exact width of our tent, so it's perfect. I'm using the front runner feet that I used for my front runner rack when I had it on here. I also used to have a center one for my rack, but as you can see, I don't need that one. This one is totally fine being supported off the two. All right, welcome to our super dirty engine bay, because dust and dirt road life, I guess. So earlier I mentioned in one of the other videos that we have an aftermarket radiator. I always forget to talk about it when people ask me. This is a quad core. It's twice as thick as the original stock radiator. You can find this on eBay. It's like $200. I think to buy an OEM one's around the same price. The knockoff ones are a little bit cheaper, but you can pick this one up and you can hold double the amount of fluid, which means in theory it could stay cooler a lot longer, I guess. And since I've had this on here, I haven't really had any issues with it overheating, and that coupled with the hood louvers has been perfect for me. All right, so here's where our air compressor is mounted that runs our air lockers and also has a spot for filling up our tires. So here's the air chuck for the tires, and then we have the solenoids on here for running our air lockers. So here's my front locker, here's my rear locker, and it's mounted right there. This is the CKMA12. I'm looking to get the CKMTA12, which is the same thing but with an extra, I guess, compressor built into it, so it's like a twin pump. Most likely I'm gonna get that and run it in our next vehicle.
Stay tuned.
But it does great for what I use it for. It does my 33s pretty quick. We've done the cross-track tires with it pretty quick. I haven't had any complaints really with it so far. It does get hot, but ARB tests all their stuff to crazy temperatures to make sure that it runs fine in those conditions, and so far I haven't had a problem.